LRRPs, Long Range Reconnaissance Patrol, Lurps, were small elite teams of 4 to 6 men who operated as the eyes and ears of the U.S. Army. While the big army moved with thousands of troops, tanks, and the roar of helicopters, LRRPs specialized in stealth, infiltration, and psychological warfare. Their primary mission wasn't to fight the enemy, but to find them and direct the lightning, artillery, airstrikes, and infantry onto their positions. The composition. Usually 5 or 6 volunteers, team leader, assistant team leader, radio operator, point man, and rear scout. All volunteer. Because of the extreme danger, LRRP units were composed entirely of men who chose to be there. Infiltration, noise discipline, breaking contact. The anatomy of a LRRP team was built for one thing: observation without detection. LRRPs were master trackers. They didn't just walk, they read the jungle. LRRP was a small, highly specialized team of elite soldiers used by the U.S. Army during the Vietnam War. While most infantry units moved in large companies to engage the enemy in direct combat, LRRPs moved in tiny teams, usually 4 to 6 men, to gather intelligence deep behind enemy lines. The mission. The primary goal of a LRRP unit was reconnaissance, gathering information without being seen. Their missions typically lasted 5 to 7 days and took place in Indian country, territory controlled entirely by the North Vietnamese Army, or Viet Cong. Key objectives included locating enemy base camps and supply trails, counting troop numbers and identifying weapon types, patrolling deep jungle, calling in airstrikes or artillery on targets. Because the teams were so small, every man had to be an expert in multiple skills. A typical 6-man team consisted of team leader, TL, responsible for the mission, navigation, and making the final call on whether to engage or retreat. Assistant team leader, ATL, assisted the TL and took over if the leader was wounded. Radio telephone operator, RTO, the most critical member. He carried a heavy radio to relay intelligence and call for extraction. Point man, walked at the very front to scout for ambushes, tripwires, and booby traps. Rear scout, stayed at the back to sweep the team's tracks and ensure they weren't being followed. Specialized gear and tactics. LRRPs operated differently than grunts, standard infantry. Their survival depended on silence and blending in. They often wore tiger stripe uniforms, which featured jagged horizontal patterns that mimicked the shadows and sunlight of the jungle floor. Rations. They did not use standard metal C-ration cans because the clinking sound and the smell of the food could alert enemy trackers. Instead, they ate LRP rations, dehydrated meals in plastic pouches, the precursor to modern MREs. Noise discipline. They used a complex system of hand signals to communicate. They would often sit in total silence for hours just to listen to the jungle. The hot extraction. If a LRRP team was discovered, called blown contact, they were often outnumbered by hundreds of enemy soldiers. Their primary tactic was to use M18A1 claymore mines and rapid-fire weapons like the CAR-15 carbine to create a massive wall of noise and lead, tricking the enemy into thinking the team was much larger than it actually was. They would then sprint to a clearing for an emergency helicopter pickup. In February 1969, the Army reorganized all independent LRRP companies into the 75th Infantry Regiment, Ranger. This move officially linked the jungle fighting expertise of the LRRPs to the lineage of the U.S. Army Rangers. Today, they are remembered as some of the most effective and courageous specialized units in the history of unconventional warfare.